Good evening for those in Israel, Palestine, and Europe. Good afternoon, East Coast, and good morning, West Coast. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today with Palestinian Authority officials. Allow me to start with a few words about Sipur-Hikaya, the NGO that is hosting this event. My name is Sefi Donner, chair of Sipur-Hikaya. Sipur-Hikaya was established with the aim to promote reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians. Peace with the Palestinians, as opposed to peace with Jordan or Egypt, must, in our opinion, must be a warm peace because the populations are so mixed with each other. Reconciliation requires familiarity, and that is what we plan to achieve. We are based on the book Side by Side, Parallel Histories of Israel-Palestine, written by the Prime Association. The book, which can be obtained on Amazon, was written by history teachers from both sides, accompanied by historians. It describes the two narratives, the Israeli and the Palestinian, side by side. Our goal is to get as many Israelis as possible to learn about the Palestinian narrative. And in the second stage, we will strive that many Palestinians will become familiar with the Israeli narrative as well. Our NGO includes the Israeli history teachers who wrote the book and the historian who accompanied them, Professor Eyal Naveh, our president. In the last year, 10 more volunteers have joined us, but we still need additional volunteers, and among other things, we would be very happy to receive any help in fundraising. So what's going to happen now? The three members of the PA will immediately begin with a presentation of the Palestinian narrative. Towards the end of the presentation, you are welcome to post questions in the chat, and Mrs. Liora Hadar, a friend of mine, an activist in Women Wage Peace, will go over the questions and pass them to our guests. Thank you, Liora, for your assistance. Assuming there will be a lot of questions, and we are fine with it, we will take a 5-minute break to refresh in about an hour and a quarter, around 9:20 Israel-Palestine time, or 9:25. I would like to add the meeting is recorded, and you will all receive a link to the recording in 2 or 3 days, which you can pass on to acquaintances who could not join today. Okay, time to introduce our guests. Dr. Samih Al-Abed is a former Minister of Planning and a member of the Palestinian negotiation delegation with Israel. Mr. Ashraf El-Ajami is a former Minister of Prisoners. Dr. Darwish is a journalist with a PhD in communications who has managed UN radio stations. All three are senior members of the Committee for Interaction with Israeli Society, a committee established about 8 years ago by Abu Mazen with the goal of directly bringing to the Israeli public the positions of the Palestinian Authority at eye level and without the mediation of politicians or journalists. All right, so dear honored guests, the floor is yours.
Should I start?
Yeah, please. The floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to cue me.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting from Ramallah, occupied territories, Palestinian occupied territories. But first, allow me, Saifi, to send my best regards to our friends all over the world. Starting from Canada, I can see Bassam, hi. And from Europe, the United States, and Belgium, Germany, and so on. So you are most welcome. My name is Ziad Darwish, and I'm a member of the PCIIS, which stands for the Palestinian Interaction Committee with Israeli Society. As Saifi have said, that we've been established 8 years ago by His Excellency President Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazen and the Palestinian leadership. Since that we lack of partners in Israel, so our leadership decided that we have to start talking to the people of Israel, that they are neighbors, and we are in Ramallah, that 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from Jerusalem. So why not talking to them and start to pave the way towards the peace? So allow me to start with my presentation. And this is what we believe in, that we have been living with it so many years. Well, my presentation name is Palestine, the Pain and the Hope. Why pain? Because we are more than 7 decades waiting to establish our independent state, but it didn't happen for many, many reasons. But we still have the hope that one day we will establish our independent state alongside the state of Israel and not in place of. So what we need is just to join hands in order to reach a goal, which is to fulfill the peace. This is my invention, that I invented the two flags together, okay? But it have nothing to say politically, okay? But just imagination, that how would we be on the future? Well, I say that our catastrophe, Nakba, started from here, from the first Congress of the Zionists in Austria. So when Theodor Herzl and other Jewish leaders decided that the land of Palestine, Eretz Israel, will be the land of the Jewish people, and then he issued a pamphlet, name it Der Judenstaat, means the state of the Jewish people. Now, what would we want? What we want? We want to establish our independent state on 22% only from the land of Palestine, historical Palestine. You can notice the green it was in 1946 where Palestinians reside, and the white spots where the Jewish people reside, okay? And when I say Palestinians, all of them were Palestinians. I mean, Jews and Christian Arabs and Muslim Arabs were Palestinians as well. And gradually, you can notice that the green were demolishing and the white is taken over. And nowadays, with the settlements, we add more and more, and we are losing more lands. And that will jeopardize, in a way, to establish our independent state. So, but there is a myth saying that a people without land to people without land. So let's just explain that. Look, in 1881, 448,000 Muslims and Christians, Arabs, lived in Palestine, and only 15,000 Jews. In 1914, 683,000 Muslims and Christians, Arabs, and 39,000 Jews. In 1948, 1.4 million Muslims and Christian Arabs, and 600,000 Jews. Means that Palestinians reside before in Palestine. They were there in Palestine, cultivating lands, working in several works, agriculture, fishing, and so on. And to prove that, it's Herzberg have been used. He wrote an article. He was a Jewish journalist, and he said, "We abroad are used to believe Eretz Israel, means Palestine, is now almost totally desolate, a desert that is not sowed, but in truth, that is not the case. Throughout the country, it's difficult to find fields that are not sowed. So the indigenous Palestinians lived here and cultivated their land, and they lived side by side with Palestinian Jews as well. And now we came to talk about the what happened with the Balfour promise, and when Sir Balfour delivered to Rothschild, the head of the Jewish community or Zionist organization, a letter saying, promising the land for the Jews. And I want to ask here my friend Ashraf to elaborate about that one. Go ahead, Ashraf, please.
Good evening for ourselves here in this region, and maybe morning for people abroad in United States of America and Canada. I think the conflict here in this region was international decision. It became reality after the British government and the French government, together with the Russian Caesar, have the agreement to divide the Turkish Empire territories. It means to divide the territories which was under the Turkish occupation, in my point of view, after the First War. Even during the First World War, the Sykes-Picot agreement was to divide these territories between three countries, Russia, France, and Britain. And our country, Palestine, with Jordan and the south of Iraq, was under the part of the Britain or England auspice, or maybe occupation, if you know. And they decide to divide the Arab countries to small states, which was regions or small states without borders under the Turkish occupation. Now they want to divide this, what they gain from Turkey after this war, between the three countries, and our region between two countries, mainly France and Britain. And because of that, the Britain put Palestine under the Britain mandate, which was under international mandate, and the England government decided to give this land to the Zionist movement, to the Jewish people, to have their independence and have their own state on it. Before that, we were one big people or nation, Arab nation. Jews were part of it. the Palestinian Jews, Iraqi Jews, Yemen Jews, Syrian Jews, Egyptian Jews. All of them were part of the Arab world, Arab citizens for everything, equal citizens, even with maybe access to the governments and part of the elite of many countries. Unfortunately, by this decision of the Britain to give Palestine to be the homeland of Jewish people, the conflict started, and we suffered, the two of us, Jews and Muslims, Christians. When I say Jews, Muslim, and the Christians, I say that the people who live here as part of this region and part of this nation, without any kind of discrimination between people, if they are Muslims, Christians, or Jews. Because of this decision and the started immigration to Palestine, the conflict started between Palestinians, Arabs, and Jews.
Yes, there is.
Now, I want to just to refer to this. What happened here in this region was made in the colonialist countries. It is not the decision of Jews of this land or Arabs, Muslims, and Christians of this land. Now, we cannot return back to the old history. We should go ahead in our
You want to make me some bread and cheese or something?
to have maybe to
I'm surprised Esther's into this.
self-determination as the two people here.
What?
Now,
No,
no one can.
she's listening.
I'm sorry, maybe Eli, can you mute your mic, please?
Probably not.
Okay, the host, can you mute Eli, please? I mean, he just
Yes.
Eli, mute
Yes, yes.
your phone. Mute.
Yeah. Okay.
thank you. Okay, Ashraf,
We
maybe
should leave the history. We are the two people here, live in this country. We accepted the principle to divide this country between the two people.
hold on. We will come to it, Ashraf. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. Now. Okay, these some images from Palestine before 1948. We are in front of Bab al-Amud in East Jerusalem, where a celebration of a feast for Muslims that Christians and Jews as well shared that in the gate of Jaffa Gate. And Palestinians cultivate their lands. They work as fishermen as well. And they're sitting around in cafes. And this is Musrara. This is a commercial suburb that Jews and Muslims and Christians have shops one beside one and cooperate together. And this suburb still existing till today, but without Jews in it, only Arabs, Christians, and Muslims in it. Well, this is a photo for the College of Teachers in Jaffa. And this is the School of Nursing in Nazareth. Well, we were being developed, man. And of course, the railways were very developed in Palestine. And this is the train station in Jerusalem, Al-Quds. And this is the port of Haifa on the Mediterranean Sea. And the first taxi arriving Nazareth. And here we have the Lud airport. Lud, it's named after the Palestinian city nearby, Lud and Ramle, but nowadays it's Ben Gurion, and you know what. And this is Tiberias on the northern Galilee Sea, developed. And we have a press as well. This is Palestine in 1936. And we can see the caricature of Dizengoff. He was the mayor of Tel Aviv, saying shalom to Suleiman Toukan, the mayor of Nablus. And Mr. Toukan answered him, no shalom, no shalom and no peace till the withdrawal. The withdrawal means of the British mandate. This is an Oriental music orchestra that played on the radio of Al-Quds, the Palestinian radio. And this is what they have in common in Palestine, the font that been written on that monetary, in English and Hebrew and Arabic as well. Well, since the mandate kept on ruling and helping to establish the Jewish state on the land of Palestinians, the Palestinian revolutionaries did their best to stop that and try to liberate the lands that have been taken by Jewish organizations. We can see here one of the leaders of Abdul Qadir al-Husseini and other leaders. And the British mandate for Palestine from September 29, 1922 to November 29, 1947, that Palestinians suffer a lot. They capture Palestinians, they hanged Palestinians, they imprisoned them, and of course, Palestine as well suffered from other organizations, that the Jewish underground terrorist organization, like Palmach, like Lehi, like Irgun and others. Well, then the United Nations decided to divide the land, between the Palestinians, Arab, and the Jews, and establishing a state for Jews on 15,000 kilometers, an Arab state on 11,000 kilometers. I don't know if Dr. Samih want to elaborate on that. Dr. Samih?
I'm with you.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to join you at this conference here and meeting so many people abroad and here. And I like the whole idea for speaking about the narratives. I think it's good to understand the past in order to look for a better future for both of us. And the presentation of Ziad here is trying to tell us exactly what happened in the past, which is good to know because we have the right to know for both to understand exactly what happened and why we are here right now trying to deal with this conflict. The partition here with the population between the Palestinian and the Arabs and the Jews was more, of course, and I think Ziad showed us the spaces according to the population, because the population of the Arab people were more than the Jewish people at that time in 1947. The next slide, please, Ziad.
Yes. Well, this is the partition. I want you to talk about the partition resolution. Why we denied it as Palestinians?
Like I said, I mean, it was unfair for both in respect to the population of both community. I mean, they gave the Jewish community 15,000 square kilometers, while at the same time they gave the Arabs 11,000 kilometers, while the population was almost, I cannot say, maybe it's double the other side. So that was the reason they did not consider that, which is, you know, they have, is because they thought that this was imposed on them, and it was there is no justice in this deal.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Samih. I will proceed. Well, and the Nakba, the catastrophe in 1948, caused Palestinian 70 massacres that have been directed by the Jewish organizations, and we lost 15,000 people. Well, after that, Ben-Gurion and the Jewish leadership decided to accept the 181 declaration, and they declared the state of Israel, and well, of course, this caused destruction for the life of the Palestinian, and here started the actual Nakba. And while the people danced in the streets of Tel Aviv and other places of celebrating the establishment, the state of Israel, it was the birth of the Palestinian refugee problem. More than 700,000 Palestinians were deported by force. Deported, just put them on camions, on trucks, and threw them to the borders of the other countries nearby, to Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. And of course, some of them fled because they heard about the massacres and they were afraid that it will happen to them. So they evacuated their towns and villages. So they were deported and fled from 1,300 cities and villages in Palestine. These some pictures of the runaway. Well, it's the fled. It's according to the red arrows, shows you to where they fled. Those who lived in the cities of Haifa, Akka, Acre, and Lud, Ramli, they run to the West Bank today, West Bank, okay, and others ran to Transjordans, and some of them to Gaza, and some through the sea towards Beirut, Lebanon, and those who lived in the north, in Akka, Safad, they ran they escaped to Lebanon and Syria and northern Transjordan. And by this, they start their life as refugees. So nowadays, the result is 4.7 million refugees that they start living in tents. This should be a school for the kids that they run with their parents and families. So the Nakba and the war caused a destruction of 531 towns and villages, and even replaced their names. I have examples over here. The original name in Arabic, for instance, Al-Bassa, from left to right, it's in Hebrew, okay? Al-Bassa became Betsit, As-Somariya, Shumrat, As-Sarafand, Tirofa, Safuriya, Tsipori, Bisan, Beit-An, and so on. Now the Jewish immigration starts coming to their new state, okay, and not only that, but the Jewish immigrants taking over Palestinians' houses and properties. And I want to show everybody that, and I will advise that there is a book written by a historian Israeli. His name is Adam Raz, and he's talking about the looting of Arab property during Israel's war of independence. Adam Raz, نهب الممتلكات العربية خلال حرب الاستقلال. Well, this book, it's a documentary because he worked several years trying to bring documents, okay, talking about the looting of the properties of the Palestinians that they ran away from their death. Now, the land of Palestine shrinked nowadays. And in '64, Palestinians need a leadership. So they established the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and headed by leadership of the Palestinians. And we can see here Ahmad Shouqairi, the first one who headed the PLO. And to the left, it's the emblem. Yasser Arafat were appointed as a chairman of the executive committee of the PLO and commander-in-chief of the Palestine Revolution. Now, after the Nakba, the catastrophe, we came to the defeat, the Naksa. You see how many problems that Palestinians have suffered all the time since 1948 till nowadays. So in 1967 there were a war, and in Israel they call it the 6-day war. Okay, and I want you, Ashraf, to elaborate about that.
You know that Israel initiated this war and called it a preventive war. The excuse of Israel to occupy all Palestinian territories and Sinai from Palestine and Egypt and Golan Heights and other places from Jordan, that the Arab countries prepare themselves to start or initiate war against Israel. But the result of this war, that the international community intervened, and we had the 242 resolution of the Security Council, which says that there is countries are not allowed to control lands by force, and Israel should withdraw from the occupied territories. It means West Bank and Gaza Strip and other Arab territories, and have peace between two sides. And after that, there was a 338 resolution, which repeated these demand from Israel, and also the 242 resolution says that they should solve the refugees issue. This became the base of the peace process after that. The Palestinian leadership based its discourse after that on this resolution, and in 1974 PLO adopted the partial decision which says that the Palestinian people will establish a Palestinian independent authority on any part of the occupied territories that they can release from the Israeli occupation. And later on became the two-state solution when the Palestinian PLO National Council adopted in 1979 the establishing of Palestinian independent state on the occupied territories.
Can I stop you, Ashraf, because it will come, I mean, I will come that in my presentation, okay? And you have the right to stop me and comment on it anytime, you and my friend, Dr. Samih Al-Abed. Okay.
It's your presentation, go ahead and do it.
Okay, with your permission, I will keep on. Then Israel occupied the West Bank. Well, West Bank, you remember that on the West Bank, many Palestinians who fled in 1948 came to the West Bank and they reside in the West Bank. So, but again, when Israel occupied the West Bank, 300,000 of these Palestinian refugees ran away towards Amman, and they became refugees for the second time. This is Alembe Bridge, destroyed, but Palestinian refugees running away towards Amman. And the Security Council resolution, Dr. Samih Al-Abed, you want to comment on that?
That was initiated, of course, after the war about Resolution 242, and then after that, which will ask for the withdrawal of the Israeli armed forces from the territory occupied in the recent conflict, as well as the termination of all claims to or state presidency and respect and for sovereignty. And keep the integrity, the territory and integrity and political independence of every state in the area. And that was the main issue when it started the path toward solving the problem or adopting any resolution in order to end the conflict by dependent on the resolution 242 and then 338, as well as in the past they were talking about the resolution for the refugees, which is 194 to deal with the refugee issue. And it's very clearly at that time that the guaranteed freedom of navigation through international and for guaranteeing the territorial inviolability and political independence of every state in the area through measures including the establishment of demilitarized zones. So that was the main issue for the 242, which all the Arab countries, I think they accepted that resolution. And they started to talk about this resolution. I mean, it's in our mind till now. We are still sticking to 242, 338, and the 194 resolution for the refugees.
Thank you, Dr. Samih. And we'll keep on now. The Palestinian diplomacy, since the inception of the PLO, for the first time, the United Nations General Assembly invited Chairman Yasser Arafat on January 1st, 1974, to deliver a speech in which Chairman Arafat proposed reconciliation with Israel by choosing between armed struggle and olive branch. And I quote, today I have come hearing, bearing an olive branch and freedom fighters' gun. Do not let the olive branch fall from my hand. And yes, and the Arab Summit afterwards on November 26, 1974, adopted a resolution recognizing for the first time the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. But we have the first Intifada uprising in December 1987. Ashraf?
Yes, it is very important occasion for Palestinians that people in the occupied territories started to have their own slogans and own destiny to not just to struggle against occupation. The struggle against occupation started immediately after 1976, but it is a kind of popular struggle, a kind of the whole people movement struggle. And this is the important thing here, that people in West Bank and Gaza Strip raised the slogan of freedom and independence for this intifada, and they even impose on PLO leadership to follow up this intifada with this slogan and to go to adopt the two-state solution in 1988 and the Declaration of Independence, which was in Algiers. This is the most important political development within the Palestinian national movement. The Palestinians, for the first time, adopt the 242 security resolution, and it means they adopt the two-state solution by declaring an independence on the occupied territories, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip. And after that, the negotiations and talks started between PLO and United States of America. And after...
Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you, Ashraf. Okay. I have to stop you all the time, you know, man. You are, you know, flowing with the information. Okay, I'll keep on. Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you. Okay. And now, okay, this is what Ashraf have been starting to talk about. The PLO leader Yasser Arafat forwarded an official letter to Prime Minister Rabin. In it, PLO recognizes the state of Israel. Next day, Prime Minister Rabin sent an official letter to Arafat. In it, Israeli recognition of PLO as a legitimate representative of the Palestinians. So here we are, you know, signing the Oslo agreements, Prime Minister Rabin and Chairman Arafat under the auspice of the American President Clinton. Dr. Samih Al-Abid, you want to comment and elaborate on the Oslo Accords, please?
Well, thank you. This is at least that's why I was engaged in the negotiation, especially in Oslo 2, not in Oslo 1, not in this one. I mean, this one was done before in Oslo. Then we started here the negotiation for Oslo 2, in which to implement what was agreed upon between the leaders from the Palestinians and the Israelis. So we started in 1994 and 95, trying to find a way for adopt or implement the Declaration of Principles that was signed in 1993. Within that, very difficult, and it was a turning point. The turning point because after Oslo 1993, they decided to accept Gaza and Jericho first. And then after that, we start to claim more territory within the West Bank and Gaza. So we had an agreement in 1995 about the redeployment process that will take place by the Israelis to withdraw from areas in the West Bank and Gaza with the aim to establish the two-state solution. So, with the, I say that with some sorrow, of course, because we accepted under pressure that we called certain areas A, B, and C, which, as a professional, I was not a politician, by the way, in the negotiation. I was a technical person trying to give us advice to our politician and advisor. And I felt at that time that this division of A, B, and C is not going to lead us to the thing that we really would like to see. And that's exactly what happened. But the whole idea for 1995 agreement that even Area C will be returned to the Palestinians for free redeployment within 18 months, that every 6 months the Israelis will withdraw from certain areas till we get to the final status issues that we need to talk about. Unfortunately, this dragged us from 1995 till almost the year 2000 without accomplishing that. And of course, we went through different stages in Sharm el-Sheikh meetings, Sharm el-Sheikh 1, Sharm el-Sheikh 2, Wye River, etc., till we got to the year 2000, in which the American invited both leaders and the group negotiation partners to meet at the Camp David there with invitation from President Bill Clinton. I was there in Camp David in the negotiation in the year 2000. That was, to me, it was a turning point because for the first time, they opened the file for all the issues. They talked about the oil issue, about Jerusalem, refugees, territory, borders, you name it. But unfortunately, in Camp David, we could not reach any agreement. And of course, as usual, they tried to put the blame on the Palestinians first. And then some Americans who were participating in Camp David came out to tell the truth that it was not the fault of the Palestinians alone. It was the fault of the Americans as well as the fault of the Israelis. Because the Americans were not really ready to have that meeting in the year 2000. And I'm saying that because Camp David took place in July 2000. And if you all remember that Bill Clinton gave us what we call the Clinton parameter was in December 2000, which means there is a difference of 5 months between the meetings in Camp David and the other meeting that took place in the White House that President Clinton gave us his parameter. So that means that the Americans were not ready. In my opinion, of the Clinton parameter were put on the table in July as a starting point for the negotiation. Maybe I'm saying maybe, we could have come more close in order to reach an agreement. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And the year 2000, we started what we call the Intifada, the second Intifada. I have, we were not ready for that, or we don't want that, because part of the narratives that you Israelis, maybe you don't sometimes capture our thinking to that. Since 1967 till the year 2000, and we were asking for very simple things that maybe you didn't capture this from our minds and hearts, that we need our freedom and we need our dignity and we need to have a better future for our children and grandchildren. And that was the reason, maybe because people were frustrated, because the occupation is controlling our life. I mean, when I say our life, believe me, in everything, in every step, wherever we go from one place to the other, we have to get your permission. If we travel abroad, we have to get your permission. Even the water that we're getting is not, there is no justice in that. Electricity, I mean, you name it, all kind of issue of life were under the control of the Israeli military occupation in the West Bank. And
Dr. Samih, can I stop you here?
Yes, you can, of course, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we'll be with you again. Now, okay, we signed an accord, peace accord, but our charter, the Palestinian charter, saying that we have to destroy the state of Israel. So on April 22nd, 1996, a meeting of the Palestinian National Council place in Gaza amended the charter, reads, I quote, "The Palestinian National Charter is hereby amended by canceling the articles that are contrary to the letters exchanged between the PLO and the government of Israel 9 and 10 September 1993. So we agreed on, and we started the peace process as Dr. Samih Al-Abid elaborated before. Now, this is a map of the words, just how the words breaks down on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. You can see who's with who. I mean, with the recognizing Palestine, recognizing Israel, recognizing both of them. But in 2002, at the Arab League summit in Beirut, the King of Saudi, King Abdullah, came with a suggestion and initiative called the Arab Initiative that proposed to Israel to make a peace with 57 Arab countries that will normalize the relations with Israel, but on conditions of leaving the Israeli withdrawal from the occupied territories, from the Golan Heights, from Gaza Strip, West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Unfortunately, till nowadays, the Israeli leadership did not recognize or accept in a way, or even discuss this proposal. And I want to add something, that even Iran accepted this initiative. Well, this is more details of the Arab Peace Initiative. And I have to say that the Palestinian leadership, headed by His Excellency President Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, still believe in the solution of two-state solution and the Arab initiative that being proposed on that summit. But Gaza suffered, for God's sake, 7 wars in less than a decade. In less than a decade, and the Israeli leadership call it operations. But for God's sake, it's a war. It's a war. Look, for instance, and they name it, you know, different names. Protective edge, for instance, or what else? You know, for instance, one of these operations or wars attacking Gaza from July 8th till 26th of August 2014 resulted in death of 2,174 Palestinians. 10,870 were injured. 12,000 totally demolished housing units, in addition to partially demolished houses. Ashraf, since that you are a Gazan from Gaza, you want to elaborate shortly, please?
Do you want me to speak? Yes. Before speaking about the situation in Gaza Strip, I just want to return back a little bit about Oslo Agreement.
Okay.
Oslo Agreement says that in May 1999, we should reach a permanent agreement. It means we should reach two-state solution. Unfortunately, in May 1999, even we didn't start talks about the permanent agreement, as Samih and Ziad said. The first talks about permanent agreement was in Camp David summit. About Gaza Strip under a huge siege, people suffer from lack of electricity, lack of water for drinking, lack even for water, lack of water for agriculture, lack of medical treatment, medicines. The unemployment in Gaza Strip more than 54% of people, and the poverty, 70% of people under the line of poverty, the international line of poverty. So this is unhuman conditions people live under in Gaza Strip. The situation makes Gaza Strip as a bomb that may explode any moment. And because of that, this kind of violence and the clashes between Israel and Gaza Strip, I think Gaza people, we are speaking about 2 million of people in Gaza Strip, live in a situation that push them to exploit. I don't think that any kind of normal people can live under these unhuman conditions and stay calm, just wait for their destiny.
Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you. Okay, so we have countless summits and meetings and no results. Dr. Samih Al-Abid.
Yes. Yep. Unfortunately, this is the way it is. I think, first of all, it's important to know the history for both of us. And we know that the Jewish people also, they suffer a lot a long time ago in Europe, other places as well. And to me, it's important for both of us to talk about the narratives. But that does not mean that we will be captured by the narratives in the past. We have to look for the future. And there are many lessons that we learn from each other during all those areas. Unfortunately, you are using the asymmetry between you and us militarily and other aspects that you are controlling everything here. And the right wing, they feel that the status quo is very good for them. They are relaxed. There is no need to give anything. At the same time, many in Israel I think more than 50% or 60% of the Israeli population still believe in the two-state solution. And the same with the Palestinians as well. Because we feel that this is the only way in order to achieve real peace. The status quo will not last forever. And the status quo could create many problems in the future. And we have not too many choices, by the way. One is to have one state, since you all getting good, everything is mixed. And the action from the Israeli government till now make it very difficult for the two-state solution to be established. Or we will have a two-state solution, or we will stay in conflict forever, or till something is happening there. I think the international community, as well as the Arabs, and you can know now that there is, the Israel are happy for the normalization that took place with a few Arab countries. To us, the Arab Peace Initiative is the only best way in order really to achieve peace with all, not only 4 Arab countries, but with all Arab and Islamic countries together. This is our option. The normalization, yes, maybe it happens between, I think of it as a major issue in order to get Mr. Trump to be elected and for Mr. Netanyahu to be elected, because it was a pressure from the Americans in order to achieve something before the election. Why it is for us, we're a little bit upset about it, because if you look, during those days, there is a peace that took place between Jordan and Egypt a long time ago. But unfortunately, till now, there is no peace between the people of Israel and the people of Jordan, and there is not really peace between the people of Israel and the people of Egypt as well. So peace between neighbors cannot be a substitute for peace among the people themselves, because the interaction is within the people, the relationship between the people, relationship between the NGOs, civil societies, and all that, unfortunately, is missing. And the difference between the normalization that took place between Egypt, Jordan, and their peace agreement with Israel, it was explicitly preserved Palestinian rights and territorial claims, while the normalization deals with the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco do not condition the agreements on anything substantive, act or reversal of actions by Israel. Except what they talk about the UAE was the suspension of the annexation. So the annexation, and I don't want to go through all this in details, because I can tell you that, for example, the signing agreement with the Sudanese, for example, it's not a normalization deal at all. It is I can give you exactly an aspirational document that talks about interfaith dialogue and intercultural understanding. Okay. But the Sudanese, they got something out of that. They were removed from to be a terrorist country, and they have to pay some money here and there, and the Americans will support their economy as well. What we are looking for a good relationship with the Arab countries, with Israel, but without solving the Palestinian problem, it will remain a big problem that cannot be solved. You make peace, for example, with UAE, which is far away from here, and we are front door, and you're not taking peace with us.
Dr. Samih, we will come to the core. We will come to the core issues with your permission, okay? And then you can elaborate more on these core issues that we are taking.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Now, situation nowadays, resistance of the Palestinian people to the occupation in all means. I think that Palestinians have the right to oppose the occupier. Okay, but we are trying, some organizations, some friends, to try to oppose the occupation in a peaceful ways and not armed ways. The Israeli military forces shooting Palestinians, death of Palestinians, the moons in every house over here, demolishing houses, and expansion of settlements on expenses of Palestinian land. Brutality of the Israeli police against kids even, and the settlers, that they are so free and they are guarded, as you can see in the picture, by the Israeli military forces, and they are, sometimes shooting even, not throwing stones, as we can see over here, and even cutting olive trees. That the olive tree is one of the native plant and that Palestinians live in, and you can see even these settlers are guarded by the military forces. And the core issues, the settlements. Dr. Samih, you may elaborate on settlements, please.
Yeah, but I read a statement from somebody who was saying about the reconciliation between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I understand this, and I want to be assured that this is going on, and civil societies are talking to each other, even with different parties. We need for this session is to know more about the narratives and how the Israelis are thinking and how the Palestinians are thinking toward what happened to them till now. So the settlement issue is a major obstacle in achieving a two-state solution. And the problem for that, the majority of the settlement building took place after the signing of the Oslo Agreement in 1994, which tell us that the Israelis, not all the Israelis, but the Israeli government or the right wing, they have no interest whatsoever in establishing the two-state solution. Because by continuing this and making it difficult for the establishment of a two-state solution, whether you create an apartheid system or we have to go for a one-state solution. That's the only choices that left for us. Even though I was with my colleagues here, participating in the negotiation, I still believe that there is a chance for the two-state solution. We presented different ideas how to solve this, how to make the swap and the territorial issue, and that can accommodate 80% of the settlers, and the 20% left can be accommodated within the 80%, or for them to stay within the Israeli sovereignty or whatever. There are many solutions. There are different think tanks, even in the States or in Israel or in Palestine. They are talking to each other and having more creative ideas about how to solve this problem and to create the conciliation between the Jewish people and the Palestinian people as well. Unfortunately, the leadership in Israel, it showed no interest till now. Where that will lead us, we don't know. Where that will lead you, also, we don't know. You saw some of those pictures. I think the Israelis, they have, okay, I will answer this for the Palestinian refugee issue. I was participating also in what you all heard about the Geneva Accord. I think my colleague Ashraf Al-Ajami was there, and Ziad was not far away from that, right, Ziad?
Yes, right.
We had it a long time ago, and we got the majority of the Palestinians and the Israelis, they accepted the idea, in which we have elaborated about all the issues, including the refugee issue as well. Unfortunately, the narratives for the refugee issue is hurting you as much as it's hurting us. You think that the refugee issue will demolish the coexistence.
We'll come to it. We'll come to it, Dr. Samih. We'll come to it. You talk about the settlement right now, and leave the next for your colleague Ashraf.
Right. Because I saw there is a statement. Okay, I understand that the Canadian, not only the Canadian, they are for Biden, that is for the two-state solution. Of course, even Trump said that, but in a different way. You know, he meant a different two-state solution. I don't know what he was talking about. But yes, the international
Dr. Samih, I'm sorry. May I suggest that you answer? No, I'm sorry. That I suggest that you answer any comments or any question later on. But we are about to finish the presentation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, next. Yes. Okay. Oh, just keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. Or write it down. Whatever. Next core issue is refugees. Ashraf.
Yeah, the main core issue of Palestinians is refugees issue, because more than 6 million of Palestinians are refugees and outside country. So of course, without solving this issue, there is no solution, just solution for Palestinian issue. Because of that, I think the formula to have just solution is to give Palestinians the right of self-determination and have an independent state on the 1967 borders, which its capital is East Jerusalem, and have a symbolic solution for refugees, which means, as my friend Samih said, it is written in Geneva Accord, speaks about numbers of refugees that Israel can live with. It means that it may not change the status of demographic majority.
Ashraf, you want to elaborate on Clinton parameters that related to the refugees solution?
Yes, Geneva Accord based on Clinton parameters. Clinton parameters said that the borders between the two states are 1967 borders with land swap. The Palestinians accepted the principle, which makes it easy for any Israeli government to decide to go ahead to solution of this issue, because we understand that any Israeli government cannot evacuate tens or hundreds of thousands of refugees from the occupied territories. Because of that, we accepted that the three biggest blocks of settlements will be annexed to Israel. We spoke about Ma'ale Adumim, Givat Ze'ev, and Gush Etzion. And instead of that, Palestine will get the same quantity and the quality of land, 1 in front one to one. So this solution may lead the Israeli government, an Israeli leader, to deal with this settlement issue, to evacuate a small number of settlers. Unfortunately, the Israeli government from that time, from the Camp David summit and the intervention of the American administration until this moment, insist to build everything and everywhere in the occupied territories and put as much as they can Israeli settlers in the West Bank, which tries to prevent a situation to have a viable and Palestinian state. It means that if there is no contiguity of the Palestinian state lands, there is no hope to have an independent Palestinian state. Even a Trump administration plan went aside with the Israeli position. I mean the Israeli government position, Benjamin Netanyahu and his staff, to adopt this vision of having some kind of autonomy for Palestinians, not a full independent and a viable state for Palestinians, which is the Palestinian leadership refused totally, and the whole Palestinian people refused also.
Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you, Ashraf. I think, Ashraf, if I may compare you with the late Prime Minister of Israel, Sharon, when Sharon asked question, okay, he never answered that question. He always proceed for what he want to say. That's it for the media. Now, with your permission, I will concentrate a little bit on the refugee issue. According to the Clinton parameter, they suggested that 3 or 4 options for the refugees. First option, that refugees will be compensated and will be immigrate to any will be dealt with or agreed with, like Canada or Norway or Sweden or whatever, okay, and they will be convert to be Swedish, or Canadian, or whatever. Next option is to compensate those Palestinians that they will stay where they are and will be citizens of Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, whatever, and the Arab countries. A third option, to compensate Palestinians and return back to live in the state of Palestine. Fourth option, to compensate them and return back to live in Israel, conditionally that the leadership of Israel will determine the number of these refugees that can enter and settle in the state of Israel. And we are not talking about millions. And now they are frightening the people. No, the right of return is that all these millions will come to Israel and settle in Israel. That's not right. I will proceed. Now, the borders. Dr. Samih Al-Abid, borders. This is your specialty.
We are not here to every issue. We know the core issues about the borders. We have been talking about this since Camp David till now. And civil society were involved in this as well. Negotiation took place after Camp David with Taba, with Annapolis, and many suggestions was at least thrown in order to find a solution for that. There is a solution in the mind of the people, in the civil society, in the think tanks, and some of you are in Canada and the United States. There are think tanks that they are talking about this issue, consistent, and they are proposing different scenarios for finding a solution for all the issues, not only the border. I participated in personally, just allow me, Ziad, because I am a fellowship at the Baker Institute at Rice University, and we did many issues that, many papers related to that. We are also participating with the USAIP Institute for dealing with many issues, including Jerusalem and the two-state solution. We are dealing with the Washington Institute, Brookings Institute in the United States, and many issues with the INSS in Israel, as well as ECF in Israel. I mean, there is a reconciliation issue taking place between the civil society, between the Palestinians, Israelis, including American NGOs, that we are talking very seriously about finding a solution. Unfortunately, the last 4 years were not given any support for the establishing of the two-state solution. When we talk about the borders here, we know where the border will start. It's in the border of 4th of June, 1967. If there will be a swap area, we consider that there are many alternatives for this. And like Ashraf said, and I said that before, we can accommodate within that not only the three major blocks here, but we came to a solution with some Israelis that we can accommodate about 80% of the settlers to be part of the swap land, but to give a full contiguous territory for the Palestinian state, and without harming anything, and we will keep a good neighboring between us and you, and we can be an excellent bridge to the east and as well. That will be a major breakthrough in the region, because even the normalization, if it is not within the adjacent to us and you, it doesn't mean anything to us. Maybe some economic issues in the Gulf states, but if you talk about Syria or Iraq or Lebanon, in addition to Jordan and Egypt, it doesn't mean anything unless those countries come with a settlement with the Israelis, which will happen if you solve the problem with us as Palestinians. Then we can talk about a regional peace, a concrete regional peace in the area. There are many studies that is taking place. Unfortunately, the right wing in Israel are not interested in that. They are taking their power, maybe the best economy, military, overwhelming on the region here. So why should they give? The status quo, they think that it will be a best option for them and to continue doing whatever they're doing. They are building settlements, and the only thing they can receive is some international community will say, oh no, for that, this will damage the two-state solution, but nobody is taking any action as a disincentive toward Israel. We want the region to be involved with us in order to have and to give some incentives to us and the Israelis. And we would like the same international community also to give incentives to us and the Israelis. But if somebody that is not working toward a solution for that, then this incentive should be applied as well in both of us. Then that's the whole issue. It's not a matter what we can do with the border. There is a solution for this, and many different scenarios for that. That will be not as the Israelis want it to be, or neither what the Palestinians want it to be, but at least we can accommodate ourselves toward that in order to reach a peace. If you talk about the economic issues, of course we have, you are benefiting from the economy from the West Bank and Gaza. No doubt about this. This is well known. and still we can work together and we can have a good neighboring, good relationship in terms of the economy, even education and culture, many issues that can be linked to each other as a two neighboring countries living side by side with each other, without the controlling of one over the other, without military presence there. So
can we finish with this positive vision?
okay, I want to answer.
Thank you.
Because
we will proceed. You will have question from our friends. Okay, next and the last core issue is Jerusalem, Al-Quds. Ashraf, please shortly.
Yes, also in negotiation.
Okay, I will talk.
Okay. Go ahead, Samir.
I'm talking about Jerusalem. You know, this is, you know, what does it mean, Al-Quds, to us? When you talk about Jerusalem, after all, it's a city, okay, like any city in the world. But it is a unique city, of course. It's different than any others because it has faith for Muslims, Christians, and Jews. Of course, it is unique than any other city in the world. But at the same time, it's a city where people live there, and you know, and activity, economic activity, tourism, industry, all together create a city. It's a functional issue. To me, it's not a border issue for Jerusalem. The occupied city of Al-Quds or Jerusalem was the 6 square kilometers boundary of the city which was occupied in 1967. It's not Kufr Aqab, it's not Ram, it's not Jafar Camp, it's not others. But you came and you annexed, as usual, the whole area of east of Jerusalem, and you call it Jerusalem. At the same time, you came after that and you built the wall within that boundary of the city. So I have a big question to Mr. Trump. If he knows exactly where is the boundary of the city of Jerusalem that he gave to the Israelis. I have my doubts if he knows what he's talking about. And some of the Israelis, they don't understand this because after all, the whole core issue is the old city, which is important for both of us in Camp David. It was discussed in Taba, it was discussed in Annapolis as well. And there is a functional attitude towards a city, whether it's an open city or a closed city. But we accept and we would love very much to have the two open city between the two, the east and the west, in order for make it a benefit for both of us, including the tourism, economy, and all that. And that city will stay alive 365 days a year because of the 3 interesting groups that would like to visit the city and to enjoy the city there. But the actions are taken by the Israeli government toward the Jerusalemites is very dangerous. And the way they treat the people there is unacceptable at all. We have a solution for the issue of Jerusalem. Palestinians and Israelis, they get together and they talk about it. You can, if you're interested, you can see many scenarios also for the two cities, the open city between the two, in details, architecture details for the crossing points between the two sides. It's very, very important for people to see and to look at this in an open eyes. And I know I can, we can answer all the questions that it's in, I can see it in the screen here, but we don't want to, you know, put the too many issues together. We want to talk about the issue of Jerusalem. There is a solution for that between Palestinians and Israelis as well. We know where is the boundary of the city of Jerusalem, our Al-Quds, we know it very well, and you know it, and your politicians know it. But when they expand the area, and now they are trying to build a new community in Columbia Airport, which is the only airport exists in the West Bank, by building housing projects over there. This is damaging, and they use it for election issues, as well as E1. Of course, many of you, they heard about E1, and they built another community over there, which is damaging the city of Jerusalem as a whole. By the way, the image of the city of Jerusalem, in order to keep it unique, by not building high-rise building over there, because it's damaging for the future. The infrastructure in that city cannot, accommodate all that development. There are many planning issues for the city is damaging. It's not a matter of race between elections, who's going to gain more votes by building more settlements and to ruin the two-state solution. This is what can I say in Jerusalem. Maybe Ashraf can add something to that.
Ashraf, you want to add something?
Yes, a little bit, because in all negotiations, the Palestinian side accept the principle to divide Jerusalem into neighborhoods, that where there is a majority, if there is Jews, it will be under the sovereignty of Israel. If it were the majority of Palestinians, it will be under the sovereignty of Palestine. And the old city will be open without any kind of fence. And the old city also, Israel will be sovereign on the Jewish neighbor quartet, and the half of the Armeni one. And because of that, also the Jewish state, Israel, will have the Western Wall for under its sovereignty. So it will be a kind of division. And the President Mahmoud Abbas also suggests to have two municipalities, one in the east part of the Jerusalem, and the other Jewish one in the west part of Jerusalem. And there is a joint council between the two municipalities. We cannot imagine a kind of solution for Jerusalem without keeping it open for all believers, from if they are Jews, Christians, or Muslims. So there are many creative solutions in Jerusalem, but not as a precondition of Benjamin Netanyahu to keep it united under the sovereignty of Israel, because Benjamin Netanyahu refuses totally to negotiate about Jerusalem. It means that there is no solution, that there is no end for this conflict. This is the main idea of Benjamin Netanyahu and the rightist wing in Israel.
Thank you, Ashraf. And right now, thank you for your attention. And I think many friends left for their reason. So, Sefi,
Yeah.
we finished the presentation, and we are open to receive questions.
Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ziad. I think it's time for a 5 minutes break. It was what you heard now is, of course, the Palestinian narrative. As you can imagine, it's somehow different than the Israeli narrative. But anyhow, it was very interesting also in my eyes. Anyhow, let's have a 5 minutes break. And in 5 minutes, you will start answering questions that appeared already on the chat. Thank you for the time, all of you.
Okay, hi. So we have a lot of questions here, I see. And so, Ziad, are you here with us? Ziad here? Ziad?
I'll be in second.
Okay. I'll make sure you're here. Okay. Okay, so going back to the first question, Barbara had a question. We are hoping that you will move on to what can we do differently now? For example, settlements, economic cooperation, security measures for both, I guess for both sides, healthcare, and building positive relationships, including educating our children for peace.
Well, may I start? Maybe I can say that as my friend Dr. Samih said, that in his positive vision that he finished talking, I think Palestinians are fed up and they want to finish the occupation. First of all, we have to finish occupation, and afterwards, I'm pretty sure that relationship and cooperation will take place with Israelis in all aspects of life.
Okay.
Any of my colleagues can add if they want.
In answering the questions here, you have three different questions. One about the economic development between us and security and healthcare. I will start with healthcare. We are very, very disappointed from the state of Israel because we are under occupation here. They got all the vaccine for Corona, and they know this is a threat for the life of people, and we are not getting except very few from them here. And this is really something that you Israelis should be ashamed of by not supporting and helping people in terms of health, and especially in the Corona issue, which is make an issue all over the world. And why not us giving a chance for a vaccine? That's a major problem for us. If you talk about security, I think everybody praising the security coordination between the Palestinians and the Israelis, even the Americans and even your leadership, the Israeli leadership, and everybody there. And unfortunately, there's no security for us. The issue of security for us is neglected. I never heard an Israeli talking about our security. Who's going to take care of our security? You see, we accept the demilitarized state. But what about our security? Who's going to support us? Who's going to prevent anybody from attacking us? Who's going to prevent people, your soldiers, from going to every town and village every single night? The security issue, the coordination between us and you, we're doing it, I think, in a very faithful and goodwill, and everybody is praising that. But even though, unfortunately, you are not respecting our security at all, and that's our concern. Economic issues, you all know that at least we have close to 200,000 people that work in Israel. Our economy is under the control of the Israeli government and the civil administration here. There is a trade between us and you. You are giving us more than you taking from us in order to support our economy here. There is a symmetry between your economy and our economy. And the employment range within the West Bank about 24% or 25%, in Gaza more than 30 some percent or 40%. So you see, if we have a relation between the two-state solution, of course, the economic trade will be greater than now, and it will be benefit for both. And if you have a poor neighbors, then you're not safe. We have to have some sort of independent in our economy. I mean, not independent in our own, but at least with the relationship between us and you. We need to practice the Paris Protocol in a different way. It has been since 1995, the Paris Protocol till now. things are changed in the whole world. It changed for us, it changed for you. So there are elements in there need to be changed in order to improve our economy. We were, of course, would like very much to have a good economic relationship with you. That's nothing. We would love very much to have a full security arrangement between us and you in a very good will for both, and not only for one side. So we will have our security. And like I said, the healthcare, unfortunately, we are very, very disappointed with what happened within this pandemic. It hurts you as well, not only us. But the way that you dealt with it, I think if you think about your values, this is a shame. This is very shameful in country, the way they dealt with us in the corona issue.
Okay, thank you, Samih. We'll move on so we have time for more questions. There's a question that was asked in private. What is the status of those residing in refugee camps within the territories? Will they have voting rights in the upcoming elections? Because in the previous elections they didn't. And why aren't they absorbed in the cities and towns within the Palestinian Authority?
Ashraf, you want to say something?
I think there is just something wrong here. All Palestinians in villages, cities, and refugees camps participate in elections. So there's an issue of the whole Palestinian people who live in the occupied territories in West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza Strip. There's nothing to prevent them participate in elections. They participate in a massive way. And when we speak about refugees, for example, Gaza Strip, 2/3 of Gaza Strip are refugees, and they participate in more than other places in West Bank and Gaza in election.
Okay, so thank you. I know that was the question. Another question was, do school books in the Palestinian Authority show Israel on the map?
Well, I will answer that with your permission. I think all the times we are accused that we have a kind of curriculum or books that trying to raise the new generation and empower them against Israel, which is not right. I think that. Pardon?
You are talking about the incitement issue that was the
yes. But so there is no incitements in our books. First of all, you have to bear in mind that these books are printed and by help of the European Union. Do you think that European Union will agree that any kind of incitements will be in these books? You know the answer. Of course not. Of course not. But if there is a map that appears in the books showing the history of Palestine, saying that in this map, this was a historical Palestine, so any kind of incitement in it. I just telling about the history of Palestine, and this is the right to say that it was Palestine, of course, and not Israel. But Israel, since 1948, have been established. Yes,
yeah, I want to add something here. In all Palestinian maps, they draw the green line. It means that all Palestinian single student knows that the Palestinian state will be in West Bank and Gaza Strip. But I didn't see any map in Israel that the West Bank and Gaza Strip are in it. They draw Israel for the whole Palestinian history. In our maps, even if we speak about Palestine, historic Palestine, but we divide it to two states, West Bank and Gaza Strip alone, and Israel, the second party. So if we speak about the maps in Israel, there is nothing about Palestine. There is nothing about Palestinians. There is nothing about the West Bank. There is no single map in Israeli school books. The West Bank and Gaza Strip in it.
I just want to say that in the school book that I learned in, there was definitely the Green Line, and it doesn't say beyond the Green Line Palestinian state, but it says the West Bank.
No, not West Bank. Yehuda v'Shomron. Yehuda
No,
and
it depends which book.
Really?
Which books? Which books?
It
There are books,
yes.
also in the education system, that relate to the Green Line and do relate to Palestinian history in one way or another. Maybe not enough in your eyes, but there is I just want to add that. Okay, there's another question here. Is there a vision for a confederation in the two-state solution with the state of Israel?
Well, this is a new paradigm. May I answer this, Ziad?
Yes, of course, man. You're asking my permission to ask. I mean, you're the negotiator. Come on, man.
This issue is a new paradigm that is taking place, and people are thinking about it seriously. And I think there is a working plan was done by Israelis, and it was shared by Palestinians as well. So they are thinking about it as a third option, because if the failure of the two-state solution, if the failure of one-state solution, then they're talking about federation. But even federation or confederation, it has to be between two states. You have to recognize the state of Palestine. That is your problem. The recognition of a Palestinian state, it's that's the dignity for the Palestinians. And then after that, any other solution, people are ready to talk about. Any relationship between Palestinians and Israelis, we are ready to talk about. But this is their dignity. And you have to recognize this. Denying our dignity, denying our freedom will not help in accomplishing anything. Why you are living in a free country, why you have free to do whatever you wanted to do within the limitation, of course. Why we are to stay under occupation forever? Why? Why your military are controlling our life? Why? That's a major question that you have to think about it, and not to bring another excuses why there is incitement here and not incitement here. Of course, when I see I'm afraid about my children. I have to be concerned about my children, about their future. It's exactly like you. So please have an open mind, an open heart. Think about us in a different way, that we think that we are enemy. We are ready to be the best. We are your best friends, by the way. We are the closest to you, by the way. But you cannot keep controlling our life. It's as simple as this. By the way, for the education, the incitement, there is a committee between Americans as well as the Israelis and Palestinians. Committee are reviewing all those documents here and there. And nobody is talking about this incitement anymore. So take that part of narrative, because it's an obstacle toward being positive, and start to think positively about the things that you can do. It's not us. There is something from your side in order to show me the good faith that you are going to lead us to establish our dignity in a way. And therefore, you will see we are open hand. I mean, the first slide that Ziad put forward for you, and the two hands getting together, they have to be, close with each other. That's the whole issue.
Liora, I have one question that was sent just to me, so allow me to read it. Okay. Question to the Palestinian presenters: why don't you learn from Anwar Sadat? What if Abu Mazen publicly declared that he wanted to make a speech at the Knesset about the Palestinians' agreement to abandon any terrorist armed activity and recognizing the state of Israel for peace? In return, he would ask for return to the 67 borders with negotiated land exchanges.
Of course, colleagues asked before I know you will answer this, but I want to tell you something. If Abu Mazen went to the Knesset and make a speech over there, the reply from Netanyahu will be to build another 2,000 units in the settlements, because he did it to Biden, he did it to Obama as well. So give us something that we can get out of that, and we will ask Abu Mazen to go to the Knesset. Tell us, Sadat, when he went there, he knew what he's getting back from the Israelis, because there were a previous negotiation between the two, and they were agreed if he goes there, then this is what he will get. Tell us what we can get from you, and we will ask Abu Mazen to go tomorrow to the Knesset. Ashraf, please.
Okay, I think that President Mahmoud Abbas did more than Sadat visit to Knesset. We recognized Israel, the right of existence. We recognized two-state solution. We were very moderate in all issues. We have a huge consensus in all issues. What should we do? It is not a matter of breaking the ice by a visit. There is a direct negotiation. There were direct negotiations between the two sides. President Mahmoud Abbas sit with Benjamin Netanyahu many times and sit with all Israeli prime ministers. There is nothing to break here by visiting Knesset. Without having something in his hand, President Mahmoud Abbas, his visit to Knesset will be a catastrophic result in the public opinion. We met all Israeli prime ministers, including Benjamin Netanyahu. The last round of negotiation was about 8 months. Intensive negotiations between President Mahmoud Abbas and Benjamin Netanyahu, led by Secretary of State John Kerry, and nothing came out of these negotiations. So nothing can be done with this visit to Knesset, even with talking to Benjamin Netanyahu, even to start a new round of negotiations. We were in all these places and nothing came out.
Okay, so I wanna continue to a question of Naftali.
Just one thing, because of that, related. Abu Mazen went to the funeral of Shimon Peres, and your prime minister, he did not even recognize him when he was there. He did not even mention his name, and he was in the funeral, pay respect to Shimon Peres, the man who made peace with him. And your prime minister did not even recognize his name as one of the attendants for that.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your next question? Okay.
There's a question. What joint plans already exist put together by Palestinians and Israelis together to move forward? Instead of each side saying what has to be.
There are many documents that were published and in the doing. So right now, these days, there is a new, I can see maybe my colleagues are not participating on this in one way or another, but I can tell you something about Liberalization, the Arab Peace Initiative in support of Israeli-Palestinian negotiations. And this is been working between Palestinians, Israelis, Egyptian, Jordanian, as well as Saudis and Emirates. That's a new thing, you see, that they would be discussing this. There is another issue within the Jordanian, Egyptian, Israeli, Palestinian alone also are talking about issues related how to move ahead with break the ice between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The private sector in Israel and the private sector in Palestine under the auspices of the World Economic Forum also are dealing with each other in order to find a way through economy and how to break the ice and trying to find a solution, political solution for that. The NGOs in Israel, like INSS, like CIP, like ECF, are dealing with NGOs in Palestine as well. Also, all those are working together there, but there is nobody is listening from your government to those voices, unfortunately.
Well, thank you, dear Samih, mentioning this organization, but you forgot your own organization, our organization, the PCIIS. I mean, we have been working eight years to contact people in Israel, people, organizations, individuals, you name it, and lecturing here and there in universities, myself and my colleague Ashraf as well, and welcoming Israelis. We welcomed Leora. You came to visit us in Ramallah, and it was very, very precious and great to come to us. And again, we extend another invitation for you and your colleagues to come and visit us, in spite of the fact that you are a settler. Okay.
The other thing I want to tell you, because you are trying here to talk about the narratives between the two. The Geneva Initiative in Palestine and in Israel were ahead of you because we dealt with that and we came with something called dealing with the past. It was very interesting document, still to be published. They talked about the narratives, they talk about justice, they talk about what happened in both sides, and we were ahead of all others thinking to find a solution for the narratives and how to overcome this problem, because it's a major problem, by understanding each other. This is a very well document there. It's not published yet, but we would like very much for us in any negotiation, if that started the negotiation, to be put on the table number one, the first paper to be put in the negotiation. So in order to reduce the tension of the narratives that is being now, history. Okay, we have dealt with all the issues.
Okay. Well, I think as a continuation to that answer, there is a question from Mireille, who writes, I wonder if you think Israelis and Palestinians are ready for peace, taking into consideration the deep lack of trust, the fear, and the pain. The people,
the trust.
People, not the politicians.
This is also misleading. Why? In Oslo, when Oslo started, it did not started between two people. It was started between the leadership.
Yeah, that was part of the problem.
Pardon?
Sorry, I said that was probably part of the problem with the Oslo Agreement. But anyway, go on.
Okay, but no, the leadership can lead. Leadership can lead the people in order to break the untrust between the two.
You really think it can only work? It can only work top down. If there's no need for bottom up.
No. It has to be both, of course. Top down and bottom up should work together, but the initiative should come from both. I mean, but you see, unfortunately, those bottom up paradigm is not working when you have too many spoilers in both sides that are dealing badly with this. You have, not only we have spoilers in our part, but we have spoilers in your part as well. And the leaders of different organizations in Israel, different parties in Israel, are not only they don't want to see Palestinians, they want to throw us to Jordan there. Okay, so we have a difficult for this. But if it can couple between the top down and bottom up, I am sure that we can reach an agreement there. The leadership are not moving, and you know that. You don't have to explain that to you because you know it. They don't want to talk about it at all. Even with the one thing that we did not accept, which is the Trump plan. Mr. Netanyahu went to the settlers and said, yeah, I mean, you know, if the Palestinians want to call it a state, their own state, we will call it something else. Oh, okay. So he had no intention. The right wing in Israel is leading, and you have 4 elections. God knows, maybe you will have the 5th election as well. So it's your society. There is something wrong with that, and you have to recognize this, and you have to start to work in your own society. There is a lot of difference between your mosaic and your society as well. So don't put the blame on us, say Hamas and Fatah and here and there. You have the same problems there. So
well, the question was about Israelis and Palestinians. Each side taking response. The question was about Israelis and Palestinians, both sides taking responsibility for what's going on.
Yes, but you cannot compare it equally, since one is overriding the other issue, military occupying, controlling the life. I can, you know some examples about some of the settlements. They take in water more than any of the government in Palestine. You know that they're moving toward lands, confiscated land. You name it. I mean, you know that. You can explain that to your own group there. Tell them exactly what is happening there, because this telling them the truth, that makes the trust between us much better.
Yeah, Ziad, you wanna?
Well, I want to add something, if my friend Samih allow me. Um, I think at the end of the day, this is the benefit of Israeli citizens before Palestinians. And why is that? Because anytime that we talk with Israelis, they always raise the question of security. My friends, I will tell you that Israel is very strong. Israel knows very well how to protect themselves and their citizens, and they don't need to raise this question again. I mean, who need this security is Palestinians. On the contrary, the Palestinian need security. The Palestinian need somebody to protect them from occupation, from soldiers, from settlers. I mean, Leora, bad settlers, not you. Okay, so.
I'm the only one, you know.
Huh?
I'm not the only one, you know.
Yeah, where? Which settlement?
What?
Where do you live? Which settlement you live in?
In Alei Zahab.
Where?
Alei Zahab. It's
You are
near.
not, Samir, you are not invited to visit her. I'm sorry. Okay.
You're all invited.
You know.
Anyhow, I will continue with permission. At the end of the day, what we need, Palestinians, we need to finish with the occupation and establish our independent state on our soil, in our land, and on the border of 67, having East Jerusalem, our capital. So this is our needs. This is what we want. Okay, and this is on the sake of both people, Palestinians as well as Israelis. And I think, Saifi, we have to finish, because not only we are tired, I think our guests as well, even that we have lots to say and to answer questions.
What do you think, Leora?
I would say one more question here that I think is also important, if that's okay, Ziad. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, there are a lot more questions, but there's a question by Dr. Iyad Al-Dajani. Why do Israelis why do Israelis keep calling the West Bank Judea and Samaria and not recognize Palestinian territory? Do you want to answer that, or should I answer that?
From your point of view, of course.
We didn't make up those names, Judea and Samaria. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Judea and Samaria, of course, it's a historical name and given to this land, okay. But it's a Palestinian land. If we return back to history, we can go to the Canaanites and then name it as the name of the Canaanites. No, we don't want to deal with this. I don't know. I think, Dr. Dajani, if Israel withdraw from the occupied territories, then it will be raised and named as Palestine and not West Bank or Gaza Strip. It's Palestine, the state of Palestine. Inshallah, we will call it soon.
Okay.
She's laughing. She doesn't believe in this. Seems like, yeah. No, we're ready to answer all of your questions because that's the way of understanding each other. That we need to talk frankly to each other and to show whether the good thing and the bad thing, which is very interesting for both society of us, that we have to understand each other in order to find a solution, in order to agree on a solution. But the issue of one thing that is bothering us here, that all the people and some of the NGOs as well in Israel, they're talking about conflict management. And it seems like your leadership are fine with that. You know, we want a conflict resolution. We want to resolve this conflict because it is harming both of us.
That I agree with you. That I agree with you completely.
Pardon?
I said on that I agree with you completely. On that point that you just said.
I don't understand because the voice is not.
Liora agrees with you completely. Liora agrees with you.
Okay. Thank you, Liora. Next time you're in Ramallah, please let me know so I can meet you with Ziad. No problem.
I just want to add that the issue of names, of how you call a place, it goes deeper than just the name, and Judea and Samaria, it's symbolic. This is the whole symbolic story. If it's Judea and Samaria, or it's Palestine, and it goes back to the question of who calls this place home, and why do people call this place home, and why do Jews come to live here and feel like they're coming home, not occupying someone else, and why do Palestinians feel that this is their home and they're being occupied? And I agree, it's very complicated, but I think until we don't realize each side feels that this is their home, including Judea and Samaria, okay, some Jews feel like that is much more Israel than Tel Aviv or Haifa, if you look at Jewish history.
Exactly.
That's great. You know what? That's great, Leora. You know what? That's great. We are ready. We are ready. If you have nothing to do in Haifa or Tel Aviv or Akko, then please come to the West Bank and we will go there.
Yeah, let's wait.
That was lovely. That was great. Listen, I just want to quote something that Barbara wrote. We need to start by understanding each other's trauma, and then we need to figure out how to move forward in goodwill, in the interest of the next 7 generations, as our native population has taught us. So I don't expect an answer.
You know what?
That you agree with the idea of understanding each.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Saifi, in this occasion, let me extend my best regards to a good friend, Dr. Barbara Landau from Canada, and her actions in J-Link organization. You are great, Barbara. Keep on working, and we will keep on cooperating.
All right, Leo, I think we are over. Am I correct?
I think, yeah.
I just want to say thank you also from J Space Canada. Karen Mock, who is the head of J Space Canada, is also took the time. We have 2 other competing wonderful webinars, but we chose you. And we chose you with a good reason, because this is a very important conversation. So I want to make that connection, because J Space Canada is working with J-Link in order to have some kind of hopeful future. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. So I think that's the time to say thank you very much to all our distinguished guests. It was very interesting and challenging, and we've only just begun. There is still quite a way to go, and we should meet soon in Ramallah, hopefully soon. I promised to come, and you invited me last time. It was in Hebrew. I believe you are not changing your mind now. So,
Not at all. Not at all. You are also most welcome.
So I'm definitely
for us when you come. Bring some vaccines for us, Pfizer vaccine for us as well. Bring something to us. I haven't taken my shot till now. I'm waiting.
wow.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I think that's time to say thank you very much to all of you, to all the people who stayed with us for almost 2.5 hours, and of course Ziad and Samih and Ashraf. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for attending with us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shalom, salam.
Bye-bye.
Some Californians, I tend to buy Italian ones.